For more, I'd like to welcome in former CIA covert operations officer and host of the President's Daily Brief podcast, Mike Baker. Mike, great to see you. As we said, some salacious details here. You are a former CIA officer. Federal prosecutors do consider this a national security issue. Son and her husband accused of using their positions to make a profit as well as to benefit, a foreign government. How concerned should we be that this
Well, we should be very
happened?
concerned. I'm very glad that you are highlighting the story. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's not getting enough coverage. Look, Linda's son and her husband, because they kind of worked in tandem, are at a minimum on the Chinese regime's books as agents of influence, right? So, the defense team for them and others, just general public, may look at this and go, so what? Well, the what is that this type of operation is just part of a larger tool bag that the Chinese intel apparatus uses, whether it's a direct recruit that people think typically of a spy, or whether it's an agent of influence, or whether it's sending academics to conferences to hoover up information that they then use in their effort to kind of jumpstart their own research and development. Whatever it is, it all fits into the same big bucket, which at the end of the day is espionage, right? So the Chinese regime looks at somebody like Linda's son and says, this is fantastic. You have access to people that we want to influence. So therefore, we are going to pay you to do that.
All right, Mike, we're certainly all not former covert CIA officers. So for you, this may not seem unbelievable, but I think, for the average American, this really does seem like something you only hear about or see in spy movies. But this is absolutely real. These accusations are real. These bribes, the corruption that took place. What kind of action can be taken for national security when we do see the levels of influence that China's government is attempting to have here in the U.S.?
Well, look, as an example, the FBI, they're basically opening up a new counterintelligence case based on Chinese activity every day, right? So the federal authorities working with state authorities are already busy and stretched thin because the Chinese regime, again, it's not the Chinese people, it's a Chinese regime. Everybody rolls their eyes, oh, you're painting a big brush over here. But that's not the case. So the Chinese regime and the intel apparatus are the most aggressive collectors of intelligence against the U.S. and basically everyone else. They're equal opportunity here. They'll hoover up everything. So when you look at something like this, probably a good analogy that people may remember is that spy ring, the Russian spy ring that was on the East Coast in New Jersey and got busted up, right? Those people were essentially sleeper agents. Now, they were living normal lives here in America, right? Just like Linda's son and her husband. Right? But their job was to identify potential people of interest, people who have access to information or positions that would be of importance. And whether it's to the Russians or the Chinese, again, the Chinese are the most aggressive in doing this. And they typically, this is a standard case where they're targeting a first-generation Chinese American, right? They love doing this because they're playing on the concept of, you're just helping the homeland. You're just helping the land where your parents were born. Think about that. She came over here. She was born in Nanjing, and she moved over here when she was 5 or 6 years old. That's a target that the Chinese regime would look at, particularly when she comes across their radar after she starts getting into political activity in New York State.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.